Yeah, I think looking back when we started the HuntFish Podcast Summit, it was first year was really just to see if it was even something that would be worthwhile to do, like something we could really grow and expand. And I think looking at where we're at now here in year 4 here at the Warren Ranch, it's turned into something much bigger than what I anticipated. And it's really cool to see how we've been able to grow, not only just from talking about hunting and fishing, but really delving into the topics that are so important to everybody today, which conservation, being at the forefront, mentorship, just being able to network and have all these people from across the United States and hopefully from around the world eventually come to this, that, we can work on things together and not just be one group working on one thing. We can all work on it together and make it better for everybody.
The HuntFish Podcast Summit has been an intercontinental ballistic missile of pro-hunting, pro-fishing, pro-wildlife conservation content that's literally reaching, who knows, at this point, maybe millions of people have seen the content. And there are a lot of things out there that are, in my opinion, negative, dark. There are things out there that are clueless when it comes in the wildlife world. But what it's done here is take a balanced approach, people at the highest levels of being involved in this, and then people who are upstarts who all have a heart for wild things and wild land and the sustainable North American model of conservation that's made all of this possible.
Derek's novel concept of creating this summit is such a great opportunity for individuals who are passionate about fishing, hunting, the outdoors, wildlife conservation, to come together and have dialogues and meaningful dialogues that allow us to explore topics, issues, share ideas, and get messaging out. And, before we started recording, I was talking to Chester about how last year you introduced these panel discussions. We didn't do that 2 years ago when we were here, but I'm really excited to be a part of those panel discussions. I think that's a great way at this event. So there's a lot of things you all do here that really excite the Wild Sheep Foundation and Women Hunt. We're delighted to be title sponsors this year and next year, and we just think it's such a valuable event. We love how it's growing and what you're able to accomplish in a short couple of days, not to mention the fun stuff you do, like fishing competitions, and I think this year we're doing 5-stand. Yeah, so that's great too, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just a great concept.
Everyone that I've been to, it's just a completely unique experience. This time around, it was the connections that I made with people from all over the country that would not have happened without this summit being the facilitator for us all to come together, like-minded individuals from all over the country. And, we found out that we share some of the same struggles in our respective states or businesses. We share some of the same triumphs, and it was just an incredible experience.
So coming to the summit, when I first started, I'd really been into exploring the outdoors, backpacking, kayaking. I had just started getting into hunting. It was getting into the more consumptive, intensive stuff. And now the being at the summit and learning about conservation from some of the biggest, smartest people in the industry, it's changed my perception of how I use the outdoors. It's changed my perception of how I recreate in the outdoors. It's changed my perception of how I think about conservation. It's taught me about the North American model and how hunting is funding and fishing is funding all of the wildlife conservation. And, there can't be these animals, these wild places, these populations of the stuff that we all love without hunting and fishing. And I would have never, ever learned that without coming here, because I've just been talking to people who understand this, and it's really changed how I feel about the outdoors.
Howdy. The greatest thing about the HuntFish Podcast Summit this year, this is the third year of the summit, and this is the first year I've been here, is to get around a bunch of like-minded folks with experience from all over the country. I'm a Texas guy. I understood there were other states. Don't get me wrong, and a world. But I've primarily spent most of my time in Texas. But to get to talk to people from all over the country, we had a couple of folks who've hunted all over the world, and sit around and talk about conceptual things. Probably the best part of the summit is everybody here is concerned about conservation and management. And if you want to know who's worried about conserving wildlife and managing them so that we have a future with wildlife, whether that's photography, running around chasing them, or hunting, follow the money. And the money's coming out of everybody's tag, the money you spend on tags, licenses, etc. The hunters are paying for the conservation, which seems kind of impractical, but it's not. And the thing I learned is we're fishing in a lake down here on a private ranch, and I didn't get a whole lot more hits per time spent than I do on my normal lake. I figured we'd all just be like those tuna videos you see where they're just throwing them over the top. That didn't happen. So I got to learn that. Outside of learning everybody, getting to meet new friends, I learned that even in a private lake, they turn off and on. So if you're worried about that and you're fishing in the lake, just keep grinding. See ya.